So, last roundtable of this morning, the name of this last roundtable is Space Tourism and Extreme Experiences. And ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the panel of this table. And let's do it starting with Deborah Sass. Welcome to the stage, Deborah. Welcome, visionary thought leader and founding partner at Space Hero.
Ooh, and Spaceverse, the universe
Spaceverse.
of space.
Joan Roca, endavant, benvingut. Joan Roca. He represents the private membership travel service curating editor-recommended bespoke itineraries for discerning global travelers. Laura Pérez, welcome Laura, benvinguda. Spain and Latam country manager for WeRoad. And then we have somebody from Artgonuts. Artgonuts, and you are not Javier Toral, are you? You are not Javier Toral.
It's okay, it's hive mind, so it's okay.
But it's Javier.
It is Javier.
It is the other Javier. So welcome, all of you.
Thank you.
So, a couple of days ago, we had an online prep meeting, and somebody very influent in this panel said to me, Eva, why don't you start by saying, who could go to space? Let's ask the audience, who would go to space from here? Who would go to space? All right, okay, who can afford that? That's the second question, who can afford that? Deborah, how much does it cost to go to space?
I don't know if I'm on.
You're on.
Am I on? Am I on? Can anybody hear me? Yeah. My voice is loud anyway. Okay.
Right, so how much does it cost?
$55 million.
So the ones that wanted to go to space, you have that pocket money with you now? We're selling tickets outside, yeah? Okay, so this is how much it costs. Okay, it's not an trip that everybody can book at booking.com.
No.
Like, hey, this weekend we go to space.
Yeah, no. It will be that very soon, but at the moment, it's not that.
Soon is 5 years, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years. When's that happening?
I would say within the decade, you will be able to access going into some part of space.
Because the space is not one space. It's a lot of spaces.
Correct.
Which is the difference?
Well, there's space in Ibiza. We all know that place. But there is lower Earth orbit, and there is what we call the Kármán line. So it's really fascinating when people look at the space industry, they look at Jeff Bezos and they look at Richard Branson and they go, we're going to space. That ticket takes you 100 kilometers above Earth, above the atmosphere, and it's called the Kármán line. And that's about $250,000 for 4 minutes in zero gravity. $55 million takes you to the International Space Station, and it's about 450 kilometers above Earth. Where a Dragon-free flyer goes by SpaceX, which is actually an unmanned vehicle. I mean, there's people in there, but they don't need the same. They go about 500 kilometers above Earth. So it's, yeah, there is some difference.
Different destinations. We are an industry that likes to break borders, tourism industry. Joan, would you go to space? Would you break this border?
I don't have a mic, but maybe, can you hear me? Yes?
Ah, there
you are. Yeah. I would go to space, yes, of course. I would love to be there, and I love reading about it. I love the good things about Elon Musk, about how he's pushing technology further. I think we all have a space as this final frontier for many of us. So yeah, I would definitely go. Making it tourism yet is another question. No? Like it's for me, it's an exploration, and I think that there's always on this extreme edge of the reality, there's always things to consider. But yeah,
we'll go through ethics in a while. Laura Pérez, I don't know if you want to go to space, but you have given the opportunity to your clients to go to the moon.
Yes.
And it was quite successful. Tell us about that.
We have been in the space, but with the imagination on the COVID times. So we create an itinerary with people could do trekking there, that could take a Espacial car and having a race there. So we have a lot of engagement because it was one moment everybody was in an introspective view of their lives, and we create this experience like people thinking on that and talking about that.
Would you be a space traveler?
Yes, I will. I like extreme experiences.
Javier, welcome. What about you?
I would definitely go. I've been a huge fan of space ever since I was little, and fascinated just by the whole cosmos thing. Final frontier, as Joan said. Yeah, I would. And I also think it's also a great opportunity to do things on a touristic destination properly right from the beginning, and not kind of like patching errors along we go. So kind of like designing it right from the beginning, kind of like building a new city, kind of the same thing.
Conquering the space. Conquering.
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay. In our previous conversation, there were a few things that came up, and they were a very hot topic between us, right? And one of them, and Joan had really good views on that, and he gave us really nice insights on that, was to ask us the question of if we are not able to respect Earth destination, and we are a sort of parasite wherever we go, will we be able to respect the space? So, Deborah, what your thoughts about that?
Well, you know my opinion as a person who works in the space industry. We actually have two other people in the room that are actually from the space industry. Hello. Hello,
to you.
Chris.
Thanks for being here. Welcome.
Chris is actually from Washington, and he is a space lawyer. So if anybody has any legal questions about what we're about to say, he's one of the first space lawyers in the world.
That's very cool. I was kind of hoping astronauts, but that's still very cool.
Working on those. We're working on those. So to answer the question from my opinion, I think that there is a lot of work that has been done already behind the scenes. What people don't realize, us normal people, us civilians out here, is that the space industry is a very, very technically advanced industry. What you see in the news is only a tiny bit of the surface of actually what's going on behind the scenes. So when we talk about space debris, which is what it's actually officially called, it's been going on for 55 years. This is not like something that's just happened. It's just now it's in the mainstream. So there are many companies, there are many billionaires who are working on making it. Sustainable is an interesting word to use for the space industry, because just getting there is highly unsustainable at the moment. But I think, from my opinion, I would like to think that we're not going to fuck it up. Oops, can I say that? Sorry.
Not only private organizations, but governments are really involved in this as well.
Here is a question for the audience, all 7 of you. So, how many government space agencies, Chris and Kat don't answer because I know you know, NASA is only one. How many countries in the world have a government-run space agency? Anybody, shoot out a number. 10?
10,
5?
Yes, another one. Go on.
So basically, and this is always the answer I get, there are 72 countries in the world that have a government-run space agency. There are 4 we don't normally deal with: North Korea, Iran, Russia for sure at the moment, and China. But there are 68 countries in the world that have government-run space agencies. Most people don't even know that.
Yeah, to me, the number was really surprising,
Yeah.
and a lot of them in Africa.
Yes,
Quite a lot of them in
55 countries in the African continent, 24 have government-run space agencies. It's fascinating.
Let's go back to this sustainability on space, Joan, and I'll hand my micro to you. You had really nice insights that you delivered in our conversation about this sort of ethics on if we cannot do it on Earth, will we be able to do it out there?
Well, I think that tourism always has this contradiction, no? Which is, I was putting the example of the Everest, no? Is we kill what we love, and just because you can afford it, you don't necessarily have to do it, at least not in big numbers, no? And I feel like space, I agree with Javier, like, how can we do it right? Because just because you can afford to go to the Everest, because of the technology, because of the Sherpas, actually, not because you are like a superstar, it's like, is a place that that as a humanity, do we want to send 10,000 people to the Everest every year and leave like tons of trash? So I think there's something about that that I feel like when we were talking about Ibiza, no, like, okay, if you have 100 flights, landing every day, how can you say that you cannot control the capacity of the island? There's something to be done here. So I think that capacity is a big, big question. It's not very sexy to talk about that because it means money as well. Like maybe I would leave the space to the billionaires. I would love to go. That's, it's a contradiction, no? Like I would like that the billionaires and me can go to space. That's my answer to this. But if you ask me, do I want Ryanair space? I would say like, I don't know if that's the solution. So that's for me the contradiction, no? Like I think as a global, we're quite, when you drive big numbers, it doesn't matter what you say. Like, look at, you can't make Ibiza, Mallorca, an island sustainable unless you limit the numbers. And if you limit the numbers, you're putting a price on it. It's like if you're raising the price. And then we're not politics, we can say this. But I think there has to be a price tag attached to going to space because otherwise everybody will go to space. And well, maybe one day we can go to the moon. Maybe there's other people there, no? Like maybe there's people there and we're just invading their space. But I think I love the concept, but for me the contradiction is about maybe the ultimate goal of all extreme tourism is not the big numbers, because the big numbers by themselves, kill the extreme experience. So we need to keep it small, unless we can go to Mars, and then maybe Mars, can do like a huge resort and be 10,000 people of us. No? But I think there's a huge contradiction underlying.
But Joan, this limitation must respond to the resources that the destination has. If we are able to create space destinations with huge resources, we can afford to have a lot of people. If we think of space destinations with very limited resources, that's true. I mean, in Ibiza can only come people as long as we have water for them. No, when we run out of water, there is no point for more people to come in because there is no water. So the capacity of a destination depends completely on its resources.
Well, Deborah knows a million times more. I'm like a guest here, but and I'm just saying my thoughts. But I feel the capacity. I mean, if we talk about 25 years from now, maybe it's sustainable to go to space. I think right now, from what I know about the technology, which is what I read about, when I like as a fan, but I think that it's highly unlikely that if we cannot make flights sustainable, we can make rockets sustainable at this point in time. Maybe there is like an electric vehicle that goes to space and so on. Well, that's what I mean. Like for me, is the concept of it has to be limited until we figure out the whole thing. That maybe takes us a long time. So this is for me the only contradiction, because I see it on Earth, extreme tourism. Like for me, it's like on the border of what I like doing. I like sending people to, because it's almost like everybody wants to, put their feet on the place where nobody has been. But you're always pushing that limit a little bit further, and and the small little white lions are going to go retreat 10 kilometers more when you send your client up there. No? So I think there's a little bit of that secrecy, that space, that boundaries. I think as humans, it's always good to leave something unexplored.
There's kind of contradiction what you say, because you say that people like to put their feet where nobody else has been. So I don't know where the heck are they all doing in Venice or Barcelona, because these are really crowded places and everybody wants to go to Venice. I hate going to these places. I love extreme experiences if they are related to be the first one or the very few ones that put our feet first there. But we have to admit that now one of the biggest problems we face in the industry is over-tourism, because people, they follow people. Donde va Vicente va la gente, right? As we say in Spanish. Laura, How will you make pedagogy to your clients not to be bad with the environment when you start launching trips to space? Not for the 28th of October, just as a joke, but when you seriously have the possibility to have in your catalog, in your portfolio, this let's fly to space, let's spend our holidays, your honeymoon, come to celebrate your honeymoon in space. How will you make people understand that it has to be a sustainable attitude as well there?
For us, the main key there is like connecting people and connecting cultures. No, imagine that in the space in the future we can reach like people, no, not as us or something like that. I mean, the democracy is something like if we don't invest, if there is not people who want to go to one place, we are not having evolution. So at the end, it's a mix between regulation, between governments and private entities, but it's also a question of evolution of the humanity. I mean, if there is a lot of people that want to go to the space, imagine we were talking also in the conversation in the 80s, most of the people went on travel like in another city or maybe by bus to Italia or France, and the flights were for people that has a lot of money. And you remember like in Star Trek, you can see like some kind of tablets that now exist, no? So I think it is true that there is like the massification. This is something that we, when we do trips, we bring to local places to connect people with the local cultures. And I think that it is possible because we are intelligent, as we have broken the earth like with the sea or whatever, but I think that we can see like in a positive way the evolution. Now there are many countries that the interior product brut, I don't know how to say in English, is based on the tourism. So at the end, the evolution, we are not living in the feudalism because the evolution of the humanity and the democracy of the things makes that thing happen.
Javier, what about you?
What's the question again?
What's the question?
What is the question?
We were talking about if we are not able to control ourselves as tourists, as visitors on Earth, and we pollute and we over-exploit resources, and we have this sort of not sustainable behavior, will we be able to face space tourism in a more sustainable way?
So, I think I stated this at the beginning, but like, I feel like it's a brand new opportunity to start from scratch and design the way that everything is going to be happening from now on into a complete new environment. And I think that gives us a lot of opportunities to actually behave properly with the environment. Then again, yeah, humans bad and probably not. But I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
You're really trusting us.
Yes, I have a lot of faith in us. But I think it's a great opportunity, and I would love to see that happening. I think state-run agencies have a lot to do, but also like private-run companies. I think this cannot be either state-run or completely privately run. I think it needs to be a joint of those two, so that it actually makes sense and fits the benefit for the most of us. Once it democratizes and 20 years down the line and all of that, but like once we actually get out there, how is it going to be for us?
Are we thinking of jumping to space, and we are investing a lot of resources, money and time and talent to put us on space, but we have a lot of problems here. We have a climate challenge, we have wars going around, we have crazy politicians running the business, we have a lot of problems right now, and we still dream and invest our resources on going to space? How can we understand it?
It's a great question. I think that for us in the audience, we are not at all aware of, again, the government plus private. Just to give you an idea, we at Spaceverse and Space Hero, we work with over 300 government and mainly private space companies in over 80 countries in the world. We have 10 million subscribers. We are the biggest space community that nobody in this room, except maybe Manal, has ever heard of. Because what's really fascinating is what Laura was talking about is the inaccessibility of the space industry. The space industry is the most unrelatable industry in the world. But as a 6-year-old, everybody wants to go to space. Everybody dreams about being an astronaut. And by the time you're 16, it's pimples and puberty, and you forgot your dream. And actually what humanity has done is bring back that aspirational part. And you're correct, Javier, we're talking about public-private partnerships. There's actually more private space companies than there are government space agencies. And the space industry is not relegated to the government employees anymore. And it shouldn't have been back then, but they were the only people or the only organizations, institutions that were funding research and actually training people to go to space. But to answer your question in a slightly different way, I think that we have, like Javier says, an opportunity to really put some framework into how we want to communicate. But the first thing we need to do is the space industry needs to look like us. It can't be, no offense, but what does everybody see when they see the space industry? They see a group of 60-year-old white men from America. That's all you see. Yeah. The billionaires that go to space are exactly that. But actually, the space industry, as I've already said, there are 24 government-run space agencies in Africa. The space industry looks more like me than it does what it used to look like. But that, again, is very far removed from where people like you and I that read stuff, the fans about space. And by the way, it's a huge growing industry. You talk to anybody who has any desire to get in the space industry, they wouldn't have a clue where to start. Who would you even ring? I mean, you can ring me, because I live in Ibiza and I work in the space industry. As does, oh, we lost him. There was another guy that, Jesse, your friend, who works for the satellite company, was here. He's right. So, does that answer your question?
It does, it does. And,
can I follow up on that real quick?
Sure.
Go on, please. Sure.
Completely right, Deborah, in my opinion. And also, I think that the amazing challenges that the STEM community, like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, face when trying to get people on the moon, those have some great ramifications for the rest of humanity. So, I mean, are we, solving like some other big issues that we have right now? I mean, not directly, but there is certainly some stuff that, filters through and ends up being beneficial for everyone.
Absolutely. And you talk about climate, you talk about all the problems we're having on Earth. In fact, most of us here are affected by space technology every single day. How we talk on the phone, how we do a computer call, how we do all this stuff, how we get weather information, agriculture, technology. I mean, what happens in those government-run industries and agencies 50 years ago is what now makes up how we live our lives. So it's a very important industry that we are more accessible. It can't just be available to the smartest kid in the room, because they're always going to be the ones, right? They're always going to be the ones that can be the rocket scientists, that can be the physicists, because they are the smartest ones in the room. But actually what we need to do is get people like me that barely finished high school to be able to be accessible to that industry and to make it more relatable, make it sexy and cool. When the first man went on the moon, 600 million people watched it in front of their tiny little black and white screens. The whole entire world was brought together with this aspirational of being on the moon. We need to bring the space industry back in the mainstream, in media, that's not just for the tech people, for the real like science geeks and whatever.
Do you think that's possible, Joan? To make it so sexy that we are all hyper excited as Deborah is explaining it, and we just want to go there and want to save money to go there and getting ourselves in the waiting list for the next space trip. Do you think we can do that?
Well, I think it's super sexy by the default, because I think what you say is like everybody dreams about the space and the moon. You know, like I think that the universe is probably one of the biggest discoveries that you do as a kid, no? Like when you figure out that we're one of many. But I think I agree with the technology aspect of it. No, I think that you need the pioneering science to bring some things that you would never invest directly into something that it's agriculture in Mars, maybe as so challenging that it will help Africa. But would people invest directly in Africa? Like, okay, we're all a little bit skeptical about this. You know, seeing how the world behaves right now, no? Like, you know, the wars and the inability to talk to each other. But for me, the science challenges 100%. I think it's super sexy. Like, I think I want to know more. And I think that we're all inclined to this, no? Like, I think that everybody loves the space, like, and it's probably one of the things that have always been this mystery that I think. For me, the only complexity is to relate it to tourism. Like that's for me the little bit that for me is a bit of a disconnect at this point. And you hear Elon Musk, he wants to go to Mars to save humanity. And like that's frightening to me. Like, okay, are we that bad? Do we need to all go to Mars to create a little colony there? And I think this is the other thing. No? Like there's space tourism. Like you go to space and you come back. I think that are we going to be a multi-planetary civilization? And that's a different kind of tourism, no? Like not the tourism of moving and going back, like flying and flying back down. There's probably going to be opportunities for like a European space station, but actually it's the International Space Station is actually a place to be, no? And I think it's super interesting where that will be heading, but I just don't know if it's a big numbers game and if it should be. That's my only. At least in the next 40 years, like I think accessibility is a double-edged sword, but I think as humans we need to keep pushing the boundaries because something good has come from technology, something bad has come from technology as well. But I think it's super interesting, super sexy, and I think definitely we probably don't. You probably know more about than us, but. Now we are doing this revival of the Second World War and Oppenheimer and so on, no? And if you see, for the wrong reason or for the right reason, depending on who you talk to, but all the research that was done in those 3 years, like half of the things that we use come from that era, no? So.
He's finished.
Yeah.
We were about to give you the microphone. We forgot.
I'm close to him, so I was hearing it. Did you? Everybody could hear Joan? Yes. Thanks.
Sorry.
Laura, you are an expert selling experiences, right? For a long time, and you sell experiences around the world to a very nice community of travelers. What do your clients understand as an extreme experience? What do they value as extreme experience?
Extreme depends on each one behavior. I mean, extreme is going out of your comfort zone. So it depends on each comfort zone that each one has. The extreme experience can change, no? So that's the point. The point is getting out of the comfort zone and having what we say the wow experience. This is the most important thing that we have in all our trips. We have always one day that is the day or one view that is something that is for you for all your life. No, I think that traveling is the best way to arrive to the happiness and also to connect with yourself. I think, for example, with this kind, now there is tourism about space. I mean, either, I'm joking, but either Disney or Universal has places that are similar, I mean, on sensation or on things like that, no? And the Star Wars, there are a lot of freakies of a lot of series of spaces. But going outside your comfort zone and having like also adrenaline, no? So, for example, there are many trekking experiences or rafting. The adventure world has a lot of this kind of extreme, but also you have gastronomic point of view, like getting out of what you usually eat, getting in cultures that you haven't been, and either feeling that, okay, we belong to the humanity. Sometimes when you go to, for example, to Uganda or some places like this, you see like, okay, this is how the humans started. When you see like, okay, let's have a chicken and I will give you some peanuts or something like that. This is something like, because now we all live like in, it changed the scenarios. Now, if you go through Paris or Madrid or New York, there are the same shops, the same everything. And many times, the other approach of this extreme experience is like we have the coordinators that are traveling with us. They have their own jobs, but we pay for them the travel, no? So then when there is a coordinator that have done, I don't know, 12 travels, they start, because traveling is like some kind of heroin. It's time you need to, something more, something you need to explore more, because it's like connecting also with the universe. I think I'm a little bit metaphysic, but I think that everything is connected, no? And why not to connect outside from the Earth? The Earth is like a school where we are, but we don't know what is happening. And I think like this kind of exploration can create also, okay, there are other lives outside, what is happening, and the investigation of that is really important for the humanity.
Well, it's known that curiosity is one of the motors of traveling, and then traveling to unknown places excites our dopamine, right, and makes us happy and gives. Javier, what was for you an extreme experience by traveling?
So I'm afraid of heights, so I would never skydive, for instance. But I've done stuff. I've done like cave exploring. I've been to Iraq during the 2015 Daesh conflict. I've been, I don't know, yeah. I mean, I like to travel and like do out of the beaten path things.
Sorry for interrupting. So going outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it took me a little bit to decide on any of those. It was like, okay, let's go. But it does take a while. It needs to, you need to find a place of, like self, strength in a way, and then you go for it and make the decision.
And you have people who encourage you to do that because you are with more people that is...
Right. Well, I've traveled alone as well, which I like very much. And that is also out of my comfort zone. But that is, I mean, I wouldn't say extreme, but it's definitely like out of character for me. So yeah, I mean, I would assume, I mean, like there's like the whole like dangerous diving thing, or like volcano exploring and stuff like that, that I would call like extreme tourism. That is pretty bonkers.
For this extreme tourism, you must be fit, or you must have some physical conditions, right? I mean, if you want to do trekking, really strong trekking, you have to be fit. And if you want to go to do, I don't know, diving, you have to be in a sort of physical. But to go to space, which are the physical requirements, Deborah? Can we all go? Thin, fat, tall, short, with diabetes, with, I don't know, a gluten-free sort of thing?
Ketogenic. Actually, my version of extreme travel is getting on a budget airline. Just gonna sit and cinch. So, right. It's a misnomer that you have to be what we call in the industry Captain America. As you've rightly pointed out, we can be of any, I mean, as long as your heart beats on its own and you're not wearing a pacemaker, anybody can go to space. Anybody know the oldest person who recently went to space is the William Shatner, aka Captain Kirk. He was 92 when he went to space. He was only there for 4 minutes, but he was still in zero gravity. I think what's really interesting about the space industry is that it really is for everyone, and yet it is such a unique industry where unless you're super interested in it, you don't know that. You don't have to be super fit. You can wear glasses, you can be overweight, maybe not The Rock, because by the way, to train to be an astronaut is about $3 million, and that includes your suit. And your suit is like a mini rocket, because if you are left outside or you're doing a walk outside, you have to be able to breathe and all the rest of it. But it's not as dramatic as most people think.
But it sounds everything super expensive. No, it's just like I can go to any Zara place and can I buy my things for the next trip, and I need $3 million for an astronaut suit, you know? I don't want to think about the shoes. Yeah. Yes, so okay.
And they don't look very nice.
And they are not Blahniks, you know. They are not Manolos, you know. They look terrible. So let's go for a last round because time is coming over. So this time, Joan, I will give you the mic. I would like you just reflection on this challenge that we face as humans on discovering new frontiers or going out of our comfort zone, of embracing space tourism as a new adventure, on how can it make a new beginning in the tourism area. So just as reflection, and I will let this panel, Deborah, I would love you to close this panel with your energy and just putting all of us right in the line to buy the next ticket. Go on, Joan.
I think it's a super exciting moment. That I think that the fact that the space industry has become again top of mind. No, after there was like 30 years that nothing really happened on that industry, and I think it was a miss. I think the only my only point about this is about we sometimes need to leave some things untouched or for protected or limited, no? And we have Cabrera, no, in near here, and sometimes it's nice to see it from the outside and think like, wow, that's beautiful. I could swim there. It's a beautiful place, but I won't do it, no, because I'm not allowed, and somehow like we've always been good as well as humans to leave some things that are like our heritage, no. I think that we need to find ways of doing this to. On space as well, and space is a very dangerous place because who owns it? Mm-hmm. You know, our governments, I don't personally see them getting along that well. It's a place for war as well, for peace, for a lot of things. No? So I have this, I think that it's a personal fear that I am conscious about how it's going to evolve, but it's super sexy, super exciting, and I hope that in our lifetime we will be seeing some of it, and it will hopefully deliver the right things to humanity and not yet another fighting ground.
Thank you, Joan.
I mean, who hasn't seen, for example, the film of Gravity? No, the moments that the person is there thinking, connecting by herself, or the films like Dune, like Star Wars. I mean, if we think, for example, when the evolution of the humanity, if you go through someone of the, I don't know, of some kind of Carlos Quinto or whatever, and you say, okay, now we are with a microphone, we have some digital things, we all have the mobile like a part of our body. I mean, they will say, okay, you are crazy of the cavern myth of Platon. I mean, I think it's something that is going to happen, and we are going to be there. I don't know when. I don't know if we are going to live that. But if WeRoad exists, WeRoad is going to sell that. At least when people has imagination, energy, as he has, everything is possible. So I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Han Solo, Star Wars. I think it's super exciting, and I think we just need to be very mindful that this raises some like a lot of ethical questions, and I think we've covered like a bunch of them over the talk, and like like accessibility or the ethical property of space for countries, and like how that can develop into something potentially dangerous as well. I think a mindful approach and keep having the non-science people discussing this is going to be crucial. How sociologists feel about this, how philosophers feel about this, artists, how do they feel about this, and having them help shape, unlike a bunch of things that are happening nowadays, have that humanist approach to this sort of thing, rather than a full scientific approach.
Thank you, Javier. I cannot imagine a better, thanks. I cannot imagine a better way to close today, this morning session talking about tourism, than saying thank you to all of you and inviting Deborah to make us dream and create a new future and break down all these borders and just try to be better humans. Maybe just going out there on the space. So please inspire us and close this panel.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure. So I'm going to tell you a 20-second story, which is how I got into the space industry 6 years ago. My business partner at the time rang me and he said, Deborah, I want you to help me launch Space Hero. And I said, hi, what is it? And he said, it's a global casting show giving away the biggest prize on television, a $55 million ticket for a 10-day stay on the ISS. And I said, holy moly, sign me up. I'm in. That's incredible. I've just got one question for you. And he said, what? And I said, what's the ISS? You understand that the ISS is the International Space Station. I'm not going to talk about being in the space industry. I'm going to talk about how you can achieve something that is absolutely, 6 years ago, unachievable. So I do not come from the space industry. I wasn't that interested in going to space. I'm not a science nerd. I don't even watch sci-fi. In fact, I've never really watched sci-fi. I have to watch it now because of the industry I'm in. But here I am today, living on a farm in San Rafael, where I built, with a team of incredibly dedicated people, the biggest space ecosystem in the world that nobody in this room has ever heard of. We have, as I said, millions and millions of subscribers, and they're just normal people. Some of them work in the space industry, some of them want to work in the space industry, but all of them love the space industry. And if somebody like me, who is barely out of high school, who didn't have a degree in anything science or spacey, if I can put together a company that actually is affecting meaningful change across the world, across demographics, then any one of you can do anything at all in your life. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Deborah, Joan, Laura, and Javier for joining us today and for making this the cherry on the cake. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.